No fancy microphones. Good evening. How is everybody doing? I hope you can hear me and maybe see what is on that bulletin board behind me a little bit. I'm not even going to talk about estate plannings and all of that on there tonight. What I wanted to share with everyone was basically my testimony about how God um, taught me about stewardship and how to manage money and budget and do things of that nature. Now, um, it's all about the from a Christian standpoint. The Word of God, Matthew chapter 25, verses 14 through 30. If you read those verses, it tells you about stewardship. It tells you how to manage those things that God has given and what will happen if you do a great job in managing your money. So, um, so to manage money and do things of that nature, I remember distinctively hearing the voice of the Lord said, "I don't need your money. I don't need your money to bless you. So what am I supposed to do? He doesn't need my money to bless me." Um, and that is true. God doesn't need your money to bless you. But what God does want out of you and I to be good stewards over whatever God has given you. And he will give it to you according to your abilities. As you read those scriptures, you'll see that God will, as you go out and do what it is that you need to do. We are all free moral agents. Let's get that out of the way. Understand that God won't stop you from doing things that you set out to do. However, the part that a lot of people forget is that there are consequences for whatever you do. So let's say, for instance, you go to the doctor and the doctor says, uh, don't eat a lot of sweets because a lot of sweets will cause you to have diabetes. Then you're free. The doctor's not going to hold your hand. He's not going to go home with you and make sure that you don't eat sweets. He's already told you, or she's already told you, the doctor's already told you, don't eat the sweets. And if you eat too many sweets, you will get diabetes. That is a scientific fact. That's a principle. You eat the sweets. If you eat too much of it and don't exercise and don't drink, water and do those things, you get diabetes. Okay. So just like that principle in science work, the same thing with money principles. Now, I'm not here to be a health coach because I've got issues I need to work on with health. And just like a lot of you are disciplined in that area as well, there are a lot of people out here that go to the gym. They're up early in the morning. They go to the gym. They work out. They exercise. They're disciplined on what they eat, what they drink, and disciplined on working out and keeping their bodies in shape. Well, the same principles will apply to your finances. Just as you want to keep your body in shape, why not keep your finances in shape? Why not apply the things that you know about finances to your finances? A lot of people say, "Well, there's just not enough money. I don't make enough money," and that may be true in a lot of cases. When you sit down and do the budget and do the numbers and crunch the numbers, there may be a lot of people coming up short on their living expenses. Now, there's a lot of things you may have to do without for a long time, for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, even maybe a couple of years. There are many testimonies out here of people who have taken a year off of doing birthdays and anniversaries and taking trips and just work and delayed that gratification so that they can build, so that they can have the house with the pool in the backyard, so that they can afford the nicer car or nicer vehicle. The one of the main issues and problem is we don't like that uh, delayed gratification. We don't like to wait on anything. I want it today, and I want it right now. And this is what really trips a lot of people up in society and their working, that you want it and you want it right now. You want everything now. You look at a couple that has been married 20, 30, 40 years. They have a nice house, nice car, you know, a handbag, shoes, all this stuff. Even single people have those things. Um, some people have built up over the years and put those things together. And you're just coming up and you want that, but then you're not willing to wait until it comes. You want it, oh, my mama got a house, I'm gonna get a house. You 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. You probably ain't been on a job that long. Okay, well, we said, well, I'm making a lot of money. I'm doing YouTube. I'm doing Instagram. I'm doing Facebook. I'm doing uh, TikTok. I'm doing all these things. And there's nothing wrong with doing all these things and making all of this money. And who knows how much money you're making? That's fine. You can be making $20 an hour, $20 an hour, $500 an hour, even millions. But if you don't strategize, if you don't have if we don't get educated on how to use that money, because I always say it's not how much money you make, it's what you do with the money that you make. So what are you doing with the money that you're making? Where are you putting your money that your money starts to work for you? There are a lot of things that you probably never even heard of, never imagined. But there are things like compound interest, residual income, mutual funds, money market accounts. I've met people, young and old, that have never heard of just some of the simple things that that can help them in all the years that you have worked. You don't have to have the most get the most pay on a job to be able to handle your finances correctly. Uh, there's a video out here, Mr. Earl. I remember that part, and he was a parking lot um attendant, and he never made over $12 an hour. But when they checked his portfolio, the things that are in his financial portfolio, he was worth $500,000 at the time that they find him. And this was some years ago. So imagine if he kept the same pattern of doing the same thing and still yet now is making increasing on that amount of money. So that tells me that it is not how much. A lot of people say, I need a raise, I need an increase, I need to be making $100,000 a year. Let's look at those numbers. Um, where there is companies that are paying people $100,000 a year or close to it. There are people out here who are entrepreneurs who are making $100,000 a year. Yes, they are. But do you realize how many hours would a person have to put in to make that type of money? Now, you want to make the money, and there's nothing wrong with making the money. My thing is, and I'm telling you, is what you do with the money. 75% of the people who make millions in the first couple of years, because financial Literacy is not necessarily always taught in the public schools. They are making the money, but in 5 to 7 years, they are broke. I've heard of people that won the lottery, the, 7, 8, 10, $20 million, and they still broke. And you wonder why. What are you doing with your money? Where are you putting your money? What is your money working for you 24 hours, 7 days a week? Your money should be working for you all the time while you're sleeping. As I've heard different people say different things about money from different standpoints. Everybody is not going to do the same exact thing, but on the other hand, you have to take time, become disciplined. You have to set up some type of strategy and budget for your money so that your money will have an assignment, your money will have a place to go, your money can make money for you. And this is another thing that a lot of us just don't know about, because one, it is not taught in the public school systems. I know that now that there are some places that do teach things about money, but there's so much to learn about finances. I mean, when you start talking about finances, you have personal finances, then you have corporate finances, you have government finances, and the scale is large, when you're talking about finances. But if you can get a grip on your personal finance, personal stewardship, learning how to handle your money that comes through your hands. It is not about, I've heard people say, I'm not taking no job making $15 an hour. Take the job. A job is better than no job. And some money is coming in is better than no money, because then now you have a place to start. If you have no income at all, how are you to survive? Yes, you may borrow money from a friend or ask a loved one or someone, and they may take care of you for a little while, but don't you think that money has come? Someone have to work for that money. So yes, get up, get you a job, make legitimate money, make legal money. And remember, if you're making an income, it's going to be taxed. So if you're making an income, your income will be taxed. That's why it's called income tax. And remember, the tax, they get their money before you get your money. They get their money out of your paycheck before you even get your money. If you're a Christian, and even saying this, there's a lot of people that are gonna dispute what I'm about to say. And I understand that, and you can dispute it all you want, but the principle still works. Yes, talking about tithing, okay, which is 10%. Now, and a person could be tithing, understand me, but they're still not being a good steward over what God has given them. I myself, some years ago, I still am a tither, and I was paying tithes, and I would give my tithes, and I still wasn't being a good steward over what God has given me. When you the tithes, which means 10%, you pay that 10%. You give that to your local church, the one that you attend, or the one that you attend, where the pastor is feeding the flock. Why to the one that you attend? Well, they use that 10% that you give. That keeps the lights. That keeps the maintenance, that keeps the insurance, that helps. If the pastor is doing the right thing with the tithes, when the tithes come in, the tithes should take care of the sanctuary and the grounds and the maintenance and maintain the building. And if they're doing it correctly, which that's another whole category by itself. But if they're receiving the money and doing it correctly, it should be taking care of all of the things that the church needs. Now, it may not, because a lot of people don't pay tithes, and they're saying, well, it's just a principle. It's just in the New Testament, it's all about giving, and then there was no tithes mentioned. Well, tithes is mentioned in the New Testament, and I'm not here to argue or to make a fuss about tithes. If you pay it, the principle still works. When tithes first was introduced to the children of Israel, it was about the paying 10% of their agricultural means. They mostly had the children of Israel, and those they had land, they had crops that they would grow, and when they would grow their crops and raise their animals, the Lord said, take 10% of that, the first 10%, and give to the priests. And they took it to the temple and gave it to the priests. And there's maybe one scripture that says, turn it into money. Well, in today's time, we're in the 2000s here. We're moving through these 2000s too. But in today's time, people are not giving 10% of their agriculture, because most people don't have agriculture to give. They don't have corn and wheat and rye and stuff to bring to a storehouse. They don't have animals that they're bringing to the storehouse. Everyone is nowadays, the majority of the people are working, so they're sacrificing 40 plus hours in a week to work, and then they're just bringing a portion of that. And that 10% that you give to the house of the Lord, God blesses that 90% beyond your wildest imagination. The principle still works. Rather, well, you say, well, I don't want to pay tithes, I just want to give. Okay, well, give. He said, give, and it shall be given unto you, good measures, pressed down, shaken together, running over, shall men give into your bosom. Yes, he says that. That's the word. There's nothing wrong with that. So if you're not a tither, the tithing principle still works. This is what I'm trying to get to you to understand. The tithing principle still works. It doesn't. It hadn't failed yet, and it won't fail, because God put that in motion. Now, you might not do it, but that don't say it doesn't work. Okay? So it does work. Now, it's up to you to know and understand the principles. Just like with money, there are many principles that works with money, but you have to know the principles, and then you have to apply the principles. We know, we go down to the bank, we put some money in the bank. The money that we put into the bank uses that money to loan out to other people and charge them a rate of interest that they make money on your money. They give you a little piece of paper when you leave the bank, and that little piece of paper says you have X amount of money in this bank, and you're entitled to come and get that money anytime you want, doing banking hours anytime you want, or you can write a check that they would honor in cash for you as long as the funds are in that account. Principle. All of these principles work. So when you think about money, think about the principles. When you think about being a good steward, if you be a good steward, you do what is right, it works. The principles still work. And that's what you got to understand That's what we have to understand, is that the principle works. So the art of you if you ever notice, you go out and you help somebody along the way, then what happens? Somebody turn around and help you. He said, give and it shall be given. So yes, the principle works. The amount of time that you um, think about it, the principle still works. So whatever you're giving, whatever you're putting out there, he said, be not weary in our well doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. Put it out there. Do what is right. The principle works. If you you set up a budget, it works because it's a principle that if you strategize, you have a budget set up, you have some simple plan form that says, okay, I'm gonna put so much money over here, so much money over here. You want to use the old envelope system? That's fine. Write all you write what you owe on the envelope and put the money in there. And when it's time to pay that bill, pay those bills. Why? Because the principle works. You pay the bills, you have good service. You don't pay the bills, you won't have the service. So remember, the principles work. It doesn't matter how much money you're making. It's what you're doing with the money. There are people making, like I said, 100,000, 80,000, 50,000, and they still feel broke. Why? Because they're not following simple principles that they can follow to help them grow. Some people think, well, I got to have thousands and thousands of dollars to invest. You don't need thousands and thousands of dollars to invest. Besides, you probably don't have thousands and thousands of dollars to invest. But do you have $5 that you can invest? Do you have $10? Do you have $2 or $3? You probably can even find stuff for 50 cents that you can invest in. But here's the thing. You have to change what you're doing in order to do better. When I say change what you're doing, the principles that you're using are not helping you. Ask yourself these questions. There was a survey. They did a survey. Some people did a survey of about 1,000 people or more. If you had an emergency for $400, would you be able to go to your bank account and get $400 and take care of the emergency? So after hearing that the majority of the people in the survey didn't have $400 to take care of their emergencies, we find out that the financial arena is lacking the education and the literacy that we need to overcome that. So what are you saying? What I'm saying is that if you look at your bank account and you don't have $400, you may need to stop doing some of the things that you're doing so that you can have now the emergency minimum. All the financial gurus that I've listened to, I call them gurus, but financial inquisitive people that I have listened to over the years, they start with $1,000. Yes, you need that $1,000 in that savings account. Why do you need $1,000 in a savings account? Why is it so important to save money? Well, it's so important to save money because $1,000 in your savings account will help combat emergency issues when they come afloat. Take, for instance, you have a vehicle. Everybody wants to drive the best vehicles, but what does vehicles need? Maintenance. If the tire goes out, you got to buy a tire. Well, you got a spare, you put the spare on, but now you got to buy a tire to replace because you can't ride on the spare but for so long. Then, if you don't, if anything else happened to that vehicle, you got to remember these vehicles, they're all man-made. They are supposed to, run and be efficient for a very long time. But there are times when they break down. And when they break down, you need to have funds set aside so that you can fix your vehicle so you can get back to work. Um, your not only that, your house. If you have a house or if you rent an apartment or something, the reason that $1,000 need to be saved. Well, what if okay, you own your house, but what if the refrigerator goes out? You need to replace your refrigerator. Now, can you replace your refrigerator for $1,000? If you buy a brand new one, probably not. Um, Maybe, but probably not. Um, so you're gonna need that $1,000 plus some more money just to replace the refrigerator. What if the hot water heater in your house decides to quit working? Well, you're gonna need some money to replace that hot water heater or get someone to come out and repair it. Have you checked repair prices? Have you checked just let's say your AC at your house goes out. You need an AC person to come unless you fix it yourself. And even fixing it yourself, you're gonna need probably gonna need some money because you're probably gonna have to buy some parts or something. But let's say you get an AC person to come out. That person's gonna come to your house, and they're gonna charge you upwards nowadays probably $110 just to come to your house. That's before they even assess that's the service charge, so that they can assess probably what the problem is. And then when they find the problem, then it's going to cost you the assessment charge and the parts charge and their service, whatever they're charging you for the service. So you upwards of $100+ just for a repairman to come out. Same thing with plumbing and other things. And you may try to do these things yourself to save money, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you can do it yourself. But all of these things that you have to think about when you're saving that money. When we say put $1,000 to the side and save it and have it for emergency, have that money. What if your car breaks down out of town somewhere, you got to get it towed back? At least you would have something. Even if the $1,000 didn't take care of all of it, you would have something that you could, maybe negotiate with the tow guy to get the price down or something. But all of these things that you do not think about. Then we most people would tell you put 1 to 3 months worth of living expenses together. And yes, you do want to have 1 to 3 months, and that's just the first part of that. You want to have your $1,000. Then you want to know what it costs you to live for 3 months, for 1 month, and then save it 3 times. So if it's costing you $1,000 a month to live, which if you right at $1,000, you're probably doing good. Most people rent is above that, but $1,000 to live, most mortgage payments is probably above that as well. But if you're below, that's fine. But $1,000 for the emergencies, and if it costs you $1,000 to live for 1 month to pay all your bills with $1,000 in 1 month, then set that aside. Then set that aside 3 times. Then do it 6 times for 6 months, and then do it 18 times for a year and 6 months. Why? Because that 1 year and 6 months will take care of your bills if you lost your job, if you got in an accident and couldn't make it to and your vehicle got destroyed and you can't get to work, or you lose your job, or someone in your home gets sick and you have to stop working. All of these things can happen in a moment. And when they happen, then you'll have that money set aside so that you can go back to it and say, okay, I've got enough saved up that I can stay. We all probably experienced this during the pandemic, that none of the bills stopped. The electrical company They didn't save us no money. They didn't say, well, we're not going to charge you, the water company. They didn't say, well, we're not going to charge you because everybody had to stay home. They wanted their money. The electrical company, the water company, even the landlords, they wanted their money. No one stopped the mortgage companies, the banks. Everybody wanted their money. They did not pause because the pandemic was going on. Everybody wanted their pay. Now you had a few governors who stepped in and said, okay, we're going to give the landlords some incentives to help the people. And that was great that they did that, but not every state did that. So a lot of people still had to pay rent, still had to pay mortgage, they still had to pay a light bill, they still had to pay the phone companies didn't help us. Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, AT&T, they did not help us. They didn't say, well, we're going to stop the payments because there's a pandemic. The insurance companies, Progressive, Geico, State Farm, Farm Bureau, just to name a few of them, they did not stop asking for the money when the pandemic was going through. We all still had to come up with that money. And this is why we need to continuously save money and put money aside and have money working for us as so that we can have working capital to do the things that we would like to do. Yes, a lot of people say, well, it's boring. It is boring. Um, a lot of people would say, well, it's boring because I got to budget out and I got to plan. Well, you would rather plan and have money set aside so that you'll have something to use. And for all other purposes, if none of that phase you, so well, I none of that phase me for saving money. Save money because there's always something called inflation. We see this every day at the pumps. The price of gas rises, and you'll probably spend more money going to the gas station than anything. You go to the gas station, you go in and you pay for your gas, and they have candy bars, they have sodas, they have, chips, they have other things in there, coffee, tea, all these things. And guess what? They are pretty much calling your name, and you're buying gas, and then you're getting the peanuts, and you're spending more money. And these are convenience. And guess what? Their prices are higher than the grocery store prices. Their prices are higher than the other store prices because it's convenient. And if you don't pay attention to your receipts and stuff, you'll go in there and you'll be done spend. You getting $20 worth of gas and spending another $20 on other products. Why? Because inflation. The gas right now is pretty expensive. Everybody's going through with the gas prices. I've heard of, I think, I've heard some outrageous prices in different places around the world and here in the United States as well. So you want to save that $1,000. Remember, God doesn't need your money to bless you. What he needs out of you is to be a good steward over whatever is placed in your hands. He even told one of the stewards, if you go back and read Matthew 25:14-30, he told the steward that had the servant that had the one talent, he said, if you just put it in at the exchanger, then I could have collected with usury, which was interest on the money. So we have a guideline to go by. We have principles that will help us, but we have to use those principles. We have to remember that there are principles out here that still works. And yes, while you're working on it, even if you have a job, you don't have to be a business owner. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. You can have a job and still use these principles and still retire well. Every person wants to either retire, and retirement, as they say, is just having enough money that you don't have to work a job, so you can retire at any age as long as you have the money to support yourself. It's time out for looking for somebody to bail you out. That's the number one thing that a lot of people depend on, somebody else bailing them out of where they at. And you shouldn't be looking for somebody to bail you out. You should be seeking out knowledge and information on how to be a good steward, how to manage your money, how to be the CEO of your money, how to be the boss of your money, how to tell your money where to go so that your money is going in places that are going to benefit you now and in the future. You may say, well, I'm not going to have no family. I'm not going to have no kids. I'm not going to do this and do that. Inflation is going to be there. The price of things are going to increase. They may level off and stay down for a little while, but after a while, it's going to increase. When the pandemic hit, a lot of people started doing home improvement because the price of lumber was fairly decent. As more people began to do home improvement projects, the price of lumber went up. So when there's high in demand, the price goes up. You make a new product and you start buying and you're selling your product, but the people that you're buying your ingredients from to make that product, they go up on their price. So now you have to go up on your price to your customers. And everybody just passes the buck to the next person. So this is why it's important to be saving. This is why it's important to have your savings in something that's going to grow and that's going to make money for you. See, your money has to be making money. This is you were getting rich on a job. Well, let me explain. You're going to work and you're going to make money. And yes, you're going to get a paycheck sometimes once a week on a Friday, sometimes every other Friday, twice in a month. And some people only get paid once a month. And you have to find a way that you can make your money work for you. And when you have money working 24/7 for you, as I heard someone say, you make money during the day while you work and you build wealth while you sleep. So build the wealth while you're sleeping. You're going to have to invest. You're going to have to put money in different places for it to grow and make you money. A lot of years ago, I used to hear people say, well, my Social Security, I'm going to get my Social Security when I retire. Okay. For them, they may have gotten their Social Security, but for the new generation of people that's going to be retiring, there's not going to be no Social Security. I mean, there's going to be money there, but last I heard, they turn it into what they call government assistance. So it's not going to be called Social Security anymore. Now, where did they get the money from for the government assistance? Right out of your paycheck. So when you get your paycheck, you look at your paycheck and something on there called FICA. And when I saw that, I was like, FICA? Who's FICA? FICA took out money before I even got my check. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. There were, all of those things were taken out before I even got my check. And then after all of those were taken out, I still gave the Lord 10%. So let me tell you about 10-10-80. And I heard this some years ago, and it's a good rule, and it's a principle that works. 10% for the Lord. Why are you not saving 10% for yourself? Why are you not placing a value on you getting up every morning, leaving your house, going to work, coming back home, every day that you work, and you're not valuing yourself? This is why you're not saving money. This is why you're not putting money aside, because you don't value you. When are you going to value yourself in the process of all this work? Yes, the bags are nice, the shoes is nice, the suits are nice, the wallets are nice, and everything pretty, the nice car, the nice house, and everything. Well, where are you valued in all of this? You value Verizon, you value iPhone, Apple, you value Android, Samsung, you value them because you're paying them, and you're giving them your money every month for the services that you receive. But you're not valuing yourself in the process. This is not about how much money you make. It's not about that. Just the person that's working on the job, even the entrepreneurs, even them. When are you going to value yourself in the process? The business owner, when are you going to value yourself in the process? You make all the money and then your money is gone and you're not valuing yourself. And now you want to get mad because the person that valued themselves and put that money aside, they're not sharing with you. And now you want to get upset and you want to get mad. You can't get mad because they worked and put their money aside and valued themselves in the beginning so that they can have something in the end. But this is the problem. You are not putting a value on you. You have to put a value on yourself. You, just like I say, you value your car, you value your house, you put a value on the clothes that you buy, you put a value on the shoes and handbags and suits and nice clothes and stuff, and then you put a value on everything else but yourself. You're the one that gets up and go to work. If you work an 8-hour day, that's 10 hours. 1 hour before you leave home, depending on how far you live from your job. If you can have a job and you be 10 minutes away from home, you'll increase in value better than having a job an hour away and making, unless it's triple, making more money. Because if you know what to do with the money that you have coming in your hand, and you make sacrifices in the beginning, and it's not really and not really so much of a sacrifice, it's just knowing what to do with the money that comes in your hand. I'm not against you having nice things. Everybody like nice things, I believe, and want nice things. Now, if you find a way to live without paying for stuff, my hat's off to you. I don't have a hat on right now, but my hat's off to you. I salute that. If you find a way to live without needing money at all, like no lights, no water, no, just live off the land. If you find a way to do that, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that, if that's how you want to live. I've heard people going to the extreme about different things that they want, that they allow to happen or would do. I'm not telling you to go to that extreme. I want you to live comfortable, decent lives, and you can. And the little bit of money that you have coming in, you say, I don't have no money. Do yourself a favor. Something I heard years ago, and I tell people this all the time, and I say, do it. Track what you're spending for at least 30 to 90 days. Take a notebook, a piece of paper, and a pen, and write it down, every cent. And I'm sure within 90 days, you will find out that you are putting money in places that you don't need to put it right now. You need to be responsible with the money that you have coming in. You need to be held accountable for that money, and make sure that you're taking care of you. This is what a lot of people are waiting for, somebody to come along and bail them out, waiting for somebody to take care of them. No, each individual needs to know how to manage their own finances. Reason being, even if you do, here's the downside of getting someone to take care of you. Let's say someone decides to take care of you. You don't have to, you're not worried about the money. You just being taken care of. All your needs are being met. When that person dies, because we all gonna die one day, hopefully later than sooner, we all are gonna leave here. And when that person leaves and that income is cut off, or that person is sick and can't provide that income, then you're stuck and you're back in a poverty game that you are not used to. And it makes it hard for you to live now. This is why every individual needs to know how to manage their funds, their personal funds. And when you learn how to put your personal stuff in perspective, prioritize putting money in the right places, and things of that nature, you're able to take care of what you need to take care of. See, but if you depending on somebody else when that person is not there, then you don't know what you're doing. And the person that you have when you're married, that's your business partner for life, as they say. So make sure that if they don't know, make sure you get them to know and understand. This is how the finances work, and this is how we gotta do things. I've heard countless stories of on both sides where the for years the husband took care of all the finances. The husband paid all the bills. He made the money. He paid the bills. He took care of that. He said, honey, you take care of the house. You take care of the other part, and I'll take care of this part. And I've seen it on both sides. Or the wife took care of paying the bills, and the husband didn't know what was going on. When the wife died, the husband was lost. When the husband died, the wife was lost. I've seen it on both scales. This is why it's so important for each and every one of us to learn the importance of handling the money. Yes, you might win the lotto, that's fine. But if you don't know how the basic principles of handling that money, you will be broke. You can walk up to anyone on the street and give them, if I had it and I could walk up to somebody on the street, give them $1 million. If they don't have the financial education, the literacy, the understanding of how to handle that finances, they'll be broke in about 5 or 6 months, even or if they last a whole year. It is sad that we as individual do not know how to handle personal finances. You can't save it all, save some. And I've heard of people who you have people that they get together and they're the one is struggling and the other one got money going to bed saved up. Why not teach the other one how to handle their money as well? Why and show them a way, give them the principles that you're using to help, or maybe you just using them. I don't know, but make sure that each person, each individual knows how to handle finances. When you know how to do the things that an individual should know how to take care of themselves, doesn't matter, but you should know how, because when at the end of the day, when things your health fail, when your life is changed by some tragic accident or some ailment comes, the other person, especially if you're married, the other person should know that information. There was another celebrity that said, you need the 4 bank accounts, one that you're saving together. The husband have a bank account, the wife have a bank account, and one you pay the bills out of. And you have those accounts. If you're married, you have those accounts. Now, single people, especially single people, you should be handling your finances. There are many classes out here. There are many people that are teaching out here. There are many people like myself that are trying to put the knowledge out there, and we can tell you day by day, each and every day, we can tell you the same thing about your finances. But here is the issue about the finances. We can tell you, but if you do not apply this information, when you get this information, you need to apply this information to your life. You need to apply stewardship over your finances. A lot of us go to the gym 2-3 times a week. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But you don't sit down and at least once a week and look over your finances and see where you are. Um, you probably got things that you're subscribed to that you probably don't need subscription to. Let me tell you, I sat down one day and I did the 90-day tracking, and I saw where I was paying money, and I began to look at what I was paying. You got cable, you got DirecTV, you got Netflix, Hulu, you got all these things, and that's 14, 15, I don't know, $20 a month. I did DirecTV back in the days when I had it. I did DirecTV. I don't have it now. But I found out they started off with $35. Then it went up to 40 something dollars. And before you know it, I was paying $80 a month for DirecTV. That's $960 a year right there. That's your emergency saving money right there. But because you didn't sit down and track it, and you figure I made more money, so I can spend more money. No, you make more money. That should be a value on you to actually save a little bit more. Because a lot of us are living beyond our means. We're living in a place where we're in our minds and in our heads that we want to be. But the thing about where we want to be may not be for you to be there today. Maybe tomorrow, but not today. Because the principles of delayed gratification works. The principles of, well, I'm going to wait until I get established. Well, I don't want to wait. I don't want to put all that money aside. I might die before I get to use it. Let me tell you something about that. We all are going to die. But how long do you know how long you're going to live? Yes, you should have life insurance. The younger you are, term life insurance is very cheap. Get term life insurance. It's very, very cheap. The younger you are, the more coverage. Get a 20 or 30-year policy. Pay that policy. We all are going to pass away. See, the amount of money you need today for insurance is not what's going to be needed when you pass away, unless you pass away today. In other words, you get a policy today. I have my grandmother passed away back in the 90s. And when she passed away, we were at the funeral home with the undertaker and those, and the undertaker showed us the caskets and said, and they pulled out a book and showed us these caskets in the book and everything, and they had a few in the back. And the undertaker said the caskets start at $800. Now, my grandmother had a policy. Her policy was supposed to be $5,000. I think her policy ended up when they checked everything, her policy was like $4,000. The children had to come up with the rest of the money to bury grandma because she just didn't have enough to cover. But because she had saved, because she had put her money aside, and because she had did some good things with her finances, all the money that they needed to bury her was provided, and there was nothing. They didn't have the children didn't have to come up with a whole lot of money, but just enough, just a few dollars more than what the policy at whole. Why did I say that? Why did I go through that? Because years later, we went, when one of my aunts died in the 2000, we showed up. The Undertaker said they didn't even have a book. They had a TV screen on the wall and turned the TV screen on and said, "These are your caskets," and they start at $1,600. And thank God we had insurance that we could afford to pay for everything, and we didn't have to come up with no extra money. We had the insurance to cover my aunt's burial. So get some insurance. Get a term life insurance while you're young, and then and have it for 20 or 30 years. Somebody have to pay for your burial. It's not going to be cheap either. The average cost right now today is around about $10,000 for a full-fledged funeral. So make sure that you have coverage. You need more than 10,000, and by the time that's today, who knows what a funeral will cost by the time you pass away. And it may cost even more. It might be $15,000 or $20,000 or 30 by the time you pass away. You get enough coverage for what you think it would be today. Like I said, the younger you are, the more coverage you can get for a cheaper price. I mean, you go to Burger King, McDonald's, Wendy's, Subway, and spend $20 or $30 in one setting. That's your insurance money right there. Coverage on you, maybe 100,000 or so, just enough to cover you. So, well, I don't have anything. Yeah, but somebody's going to have a bill if you die. Young man died the other day, went to sleep and didn't wake up. Didn't have no insurance. He always wanted to be cremated, but guess what? They still had to do a GoFundMe just to get money for the cremation. Get some insurance, life insurance. First, get some insurance because you need insurance. And have that so you can be covered just in case. You say, well, I don't have nothing. That's not the point. The point is you want to be covered. You don't want to leave that burden on your family or somebody else that have to come up with that money to bury you or start a GoFundMe just to bury you. So make sure you have some money set aside. Make sure you put some money somewhere until so that someone can get that money and put a beneficiary on it so someone can get that money. Now, if you're in the state of South Carolina, I know this, that if you're under 35 and you're not married, your family, your mother and father gets everything. And even if you're above that and you're not married, you're still single, everything goes back to mother and father if they are still living. And if not, then your siblings gets everything. And they're going to get that bill too if they're still living. They're going to get that bill to bury you if they're still here. If you don't have a spouse by the time you die. So make sure you get some type of life insurance and put that on you because you don't know when you're going to leave here and you're going to need that coverage. Also, so make sure you do that. Make sure you're saving money, $1,000 for emergencies. Put that aside. Find out what it costs you to live 1 month in your living expenses and set a goal to put 3 months aside. After 3 months, put 6 months. After 6 months, put a year and 6 months, which is 18 months. You should have 18 months worth of living expenses set aside. So if it's costing you $1,000, you should have $18,000 put aside. And then go beyond, because after a while, if you lose your job, or if you get sick, or if you have to take off and go somewhere, or maybe if you live out of town away from family and somebody pass away, have money set aside so that you can take that trip and go home and grieve with your family members and friends. A lot of times people don't have money set aside for traveling. But this is the purpose of having that $1,000 worth of emergency fund set aside, because if if you don't live close to family and something happens and you have to leave in the middle of the night, you have something that you can leave with. I'm not a big fan of you having a lot of money at home, but when I say have some cash on hand, have something that you'll be comfortable having. Some people comfortable with $10,000 in cash on them. Some people are comfortable with that. If you're not, then I don't suggest you do that. But have a comfortable amount of cash as well. Especially those that live in the South, hurricanes, tornadoes in Midwest, winter storms up north, and windstorms out west. So no matter where you are, earthquake, something's going to happen that's going to cause the power to go out, and you're not going to be able to get to the ATM to get no money. What if the bank system is down? One night I went to get some gas, and all the cards that I had, everything said decline, decline, decline. And I'm like, why is all of these things declining? I know I got money on the cards, these debit cards. But after it said decline, thank goodness and God that I had cash money that I could pay for my gas. And then the next day when I went to the bank, they said, oh, the system was down for that hour, and over 17,000 people tried to access funds and could not access funds because the system was down. That's a lot of people trying to access funds, because a lot of people just use their cards nowadays. They don't carry cash. And that's understandable too. I mean, a lot of people use their phone. They got everything, on their phone, and tap this and tap that. And that's fine too, if that's going to help you be disciplined with your spending. But get disciplined enough to keep some type of cash if you can. Keep cash on you, just in case that light goes out, just in case those power goes down and you can't get what you need from the ATM machine, or you can't use the card. We experience that a lot, in these southern parts. So remember tonight, I know I said a lot, and if you have to, rewind this, watch it as many times as you need to. But remember, it is not how much money you are making. It's what you're doing with the money. Are you valuing yourself in the process of you working and having money? What value are you placing on yourself above all these other things, so that you can have something, so that when retirement time come and the time come that you do not are not able to work, or want to maybe slow down from working, where now you're working 40 or 50 hours a week, and you get a little bit older and you say, okay, I want to retire. I don't want to work as much. I want to work maybe 3 days a week. At least you'll have something to help with the supplemental of your income. Remember so remember those things. It's not about how much money you're making, but it's what you're doing with that money that counts. You won't get rich on a job, but if you take the money that you're making on that job and begin to invest and put it in some of in the right places, then you can start to grow the wealth that you need, because riches come and work. You get rich and you work during the day and you grow wealth at night. You make money during the day and you grow wealth at night while you're sleeping. So while you're sleeping, you want your money to be working, because money is the only thing that can work for you 24 hours, 7 days a week, nonstop. So there's many things to unpack when you're talking about finances. So make sure that as you look at your finances, look at your personal finances. This is what we're talking about, your personal finances. Make sure that you are doing what's right with your personal finances. You may be living off of somebody else. That is not a good idea, because when that person is not there anymore, then what happens? If you don't learn the principles, if you want to keep you keep living and that person dies, there's no more income. You keep living, that person gets sick and they can't work, and they're not taking care of you. You're gonna have to take care of them. Even individually, know how to cook, know how to clean, know how to take care of yourself, know how to prep your money, and do the right things with your money so that you can increase with your money. And when you learn how to do those things and set up, those things, then it'll make better for both of you when you do get married, when you do have a family. It'll make better for both of you. So thank you for listening tonight or this afternoon or whenever you're listening. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. And if you like this, share it with somebody. Let somebody know that the principles work. Like I said, I'm not here to fuss. I'm not here to argue. I'm just passionate about people learning about their finances and taking the right steps and putting yourself in the equation of value. You work hard for your money, and your money should be working for you. I'm not promoting this particular investment, that particular investment. I'm not promoting any type of investment, but in you. The investment is in you. You you should be valuing yourself and equating yourself when you work. You give the Lord 10%. Why are you not giving yourself 10%? 10, 10, and living off of the 80%, and breaking the 80% down to make sure that your living expenses are taken care of, where you're paying your mortgage or rent, where you're paying your vehicle and insurances, where you're paying your light bill, your water bill, your phone bill, all those things. You value those because you pay them. The cable, the internet, the telephone company, you value all of them. But why are you not valuing yourself in the process of all of this? You should be valuing yourself, putting that value on you. And when you put that value on you, you everything else changes. Yes, nice bags, but that's Louis Vuitton money, or that's Dezor money, or that's Fubu, or that's Polo, or or that's Bahama Mimi, and these Coach and Michael Kors. That's their money. You got the bag, but they got the money. You want the money to be working for you. Then after the money starts working for you, where you're getting compound interest, residual incomes, and different things, and your investment is growing, then you may, get those things. Mercedes making their money. Ford, um, all these other companies, Lexus, Toyota, they all making their money. They put a value on their product. The phone companies, they put a value on their product, but you didn't value yourself in the process. And this is where you need to value yourself in the process so that you can improve with what you're doing with your money. Good night.